So today we are looking at April 2023. April 2023, question 3B. We have dealt with question 3A in our previous lesson. So 3B says the monthly rent paid by residents of Hillview Estate is found to be normally distributed with a mean of 22,150 and a standard deviation of 8,900. On the basis of a sample of 200 residents, construct a 95% confidence interval for the monthly rent paid. So the first thing is to know whether this population is known or unknown. It's to know whether the population is known or unknown. Now, these figures, the standard deviation that we are given is for the monthly rent that is payable by the Hillview. And we are told that on the basis of a sample of 200 residents, so this standard deviation is for the entire estate, is not for a sample, not for a sample. And therefore, this population is known. So if the population is known, the confidence interval will be given as X bar plus or minus Z alpha out of 2 standard deviation. You divide by the root of n. You divide by the root of n. So our mean is 22,150. So plus or minus Z at 95%, 0.05 out of 2, multiplied by the standard deviation, which is 8,900. You divide by the square root of 200. The square root of 200. So this proceeds to become 22,150. Now this value, I told you, you should always get it very right. And because it is very common, the figure you can keep in your mind at 95%, Z will always be 1.96. Then now multiply by 8,900 out of the root of 200. So 22,150 plus or minus, give me this value without a decimal. Give me the value there without a decimal. Yeah, I can say 12/3. Good. So if it is 12/3, now subtract 12/3 from 22 and 50. You can either talk or you type. When you subtract, what do you get?
2917.
20,917. This is mu. And when you add
23,383.
good 23,383. So that is the confidence interval that we have there. Test the hypothesis, the amount paid in monthly rent is 20,000. So we test the hypothesis that the amount paid is 20,000. We are told to test the hypothesis. We said step number 1 is to develop the hypothesis. And in the hypothesis, we will say that the null is that X bar is equals to mu. That is the value we are given is 20,000. 20,000 is equal to, these are the one mu, which is 22,150. 22,150. Then in the alternative hypothesis, X bar is less than mu. That is 20,000 is less than 22,150. 20,000 is less than 22,150. Haya, ishasema namna hiyo, you go to significance level. Significance level that we said alpha, we are told we test at 5%. So this is 0.05. Toka hapo, the third step inaitwa test statistic. Test statistic, which we said when the population is known, we always use Z. So Z is X bar minus mu. This one, you divide by standard deviation, which is divided by the root of the sample size. X bar minus mu, you divide by standard deviation, which is divided by the square root of the sample size. And therefore, our Z calculated will be 20,000 minus 22,150. 20,000 minus 22,150. You divide by the standard deviation, tulikuwa tumeambiwa ni 8,900. So 8,900, which is again divided by the root of 200. Divided by the root of Give me the answer. Negative 3.416. Negative 3.416. So the next now is to design the division rule. The division rule, which is going to be one tail. The division rule, which will be one tail. Because you're looking for the less than, we are on this side this way. Ukisonga hivi and this way. So if we are here, we will reject null at 0.05. Na kama uko this side, we will accept null at 0.95. And then this is Z critical. And again, you know, when it is one tail, the value of Z, I told you should always get that it is 1.64. Negative on this side. At two tail, it is 1.96. At one tail, it is 1.64. It's 1.64. Then from there now, we make the conclusion. We make the conclusion. So the conclusion is we will reject null. Since we reject null, since Z calculated is less than Z critical. That is negative 3.416 is less than negative 1.64. If you reject the null hypothesis, since Z calculated is less than Z critical. What does that mean? The meaning of that is the rent paid is 20,000. The rent paid is 20,000. That is what we had been asked to determine. Yeah. So it's not 22. 22 is not the average. So we are through with that. Let's go to question number 4. Differentiate between the following terms. Differentiate between the following terms. I want you to go to your notes and check those terms. The first one is coefficient of skewness. Coefficient of skewness. Get to your notes. Let me start with Beatrice. When you get to your notes, what are you finding? Tulisoma kwa descriptive statistics. Descriptive statistics, go there and tell us if you have not gotten that in your notes, we said coefficient of skewness, it is just a measure of group sidedness. Group sidedness of a set of data. Coefficient of skewness is a measure of group sidedness. The ones that are elongated towards the left, we call them negative skewness. Elongated towards the right, we call them positive skewness. And the one that is within the center, we call it zero skewness or the normal distribution. The next term that we are told to talk about is the coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation. And coefficient of variation is a measure. Coefficient of variation is a measure of variability in a set of data. A measure of variability in a set of data. It is the expression of the mean in terms of the standard deviation. So in simple terms, it is the measure of variability. The other one is arithmetic mean. Arithmetic mean, it is the sum of values. The sum of values divided by the number of values. The sum of values divided by the number of values. You can even give the formula that x bar is the sum of xi divided by n. The formula. So the sum of the values that is divided by the number of those values. Then we have what we call the harmonic mean. And the harmonic mean, we said it is the mean obtained by dividing the number of values. The number of values using the sum of their reciprocals. Is obtained by dividing the number of values using the sum of their reciprocals. So we say the harmonic mean is n, that is the number of values. You divide by the sum of 1 out of the xi. So you get the number here, you divide by the sum of their reciprocals. So that is how you are supposed to respond to that kind of a scenario. And if you do not have words to state it, you can still give us the formulas. This formula for the skewness, I hope you remember the coefficient of skewness. Tulisema it is 3 into brackets mean minus median. You divide by standard deviation. The formula for the coefficient of variation, we say it is the standard deviation divided by the mean times 100. So you can as well give the formulas in case you are short of the words to describe it. In case you are short of the words to describe it, it is still within acceptable limits. Part B, Mr. Rajab Omar is the marketing manager of Teamtex Limited. He gathered data on the number of sales persons engaged in the month and the sales made in the last 10 months of the year. So we have the number, the year and month, the number of sales people engaged and the sales in thousands. Now estimate the total sales function using the ordinary least squares method. So I told you when you come across the ordinary least squares method, the very first thing is to come up with the formulas that are required. And the first thing is to tell us y is equals to a plus bx. That is the format. Y is equals to a plus bx. When you tell us y is equals to a plus bx, then you tell us b is equal to n sum of xy minus sum of x sum of y. You divide this by n sum of x square minus sum of x. Square that. That's how you get the value of A, the value of B. Then the value of A, tukasema is sum of y minus B sum of x. You divide by n. Sum of y minus B sum of x, divide by n. So having said so, we are now in a position to develop our data, the analysis table. So we will require 4 columns. We require a column of x, column of y, a column of xy, and a column where x is squared. The column where x is squared. So I would like you to prepare the table. I did show you how to use the calculator in getting this. So this one, I'm only designing the table. Then utajipanga and give me the answer. So the number of sales people will be our x. So we have 12 here. And I told you you should use the values in full. So 12, 23,000. So 11 and 22,000. 14 and 23,000. 12 and 24,000. 15 and 28,000. We have 11 13, 14, 10, and 9. So my space is not for sharing. So do that, get the total here, substitute, then I will come, I'm actually uniandikie the answer there. Ndio nikuje tuendelee from there. Where are the answers? Waiting for the answers. I want the final answer, Beatrice. The value for B and the value for A. If we disagree, that's when we shall go to the totals. Waiting for the answers are still. The value of A, the value of B. You're taking too long. I thought that is a very simple exercise. Okay, here it tells me that B is 1434.65. Is that B or A? Because Sam naye anasema that is A. 1434.65. I guess that should be it B or A or B. 1434.65 And the value of A, 5440. 0.735. 5440.735. So that means our function is y is equals to 5440.735 plus 1434.65x. So when we are told that there were 19 workers, the predicted sales will be 5440.735 plus 1434.65 times 19.